Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope that you're having a lovely day out there, wherever you may be. Thank you so much for clicking on the video, checking out the channel, and hopefully staying for a bit today. We're going to return to Suzanne Vega. We're going to listen to the track The Queen and the Soldier. This is off of her debut and self-titled album, released in 1985. Quite a few of you had suggested this particular track. Just to at least name a few of you: Alden21, David Emery, Josie P. Cat, John Mavrodis, Paul Martin, Rosenfield. Hold on, I'm looking. Ricket Tick, First or One Tish Head, Steppenwolf, even though your name is abbreviated, Wisey Wig, and Paul Mary. Thank you guys so much for the recommendation. I'm excited to dive into this. I mean, we haven't covered a lot from Miss Vega, but the few tracks that we have covered recently-ish have been really surprising to me. So let's go ahead and listen to the song. We'll discuss it a little bit after. The Queen and the Soldier.
The soldier came knocking upon the Queen's door. He said, I am not fighting for you anymore. And the Queen knew she'd seen his face someplace before, and slowly she led him inside. He said, I've watched your palace up here on the hill, and I've wondered who's the woman for whom we all kill. But I am leaving tomorrow, and you can do what you will. Only first I am asking you why. Down the long narrow hall he was led, into her room with her tapestries red, and she never once took the crown from her head. She asked him where to sit down. He said, I see you now, and you are so very young, but I've seen more battles lost than I have battles won, and I've got this intuition, says it's all for your fun. And now will you tell me why? Well, the young queen, she fixed him with an arrogant eye. She said, you won't understand, and you may as well not try. But her face was a child's, and he thought she would cry. But she closed herself up like a fan.
She feels a little
She
shame.
said, I've swallowed a secret burning thread. It cuts me inside, and often I've bled. And he laid his hand then on the top of her head, and he bowed her down to the ground. Tell me, how hungry are you? How weak you must feel, as you are living here alone and you are never revealed. But I won't march again on your battlefield. And he took her to the window to see, and the sun, it was gold, though the sky, it was gray. And she wanted more than she ever could say. But she knew how it frightened her, and she turned away and would not look at his face again. And he said, I want to live as an honest man, to get all I deserve and to give all I can, and to love a young woman who I don't understand. Your Highness, your ways are very strange. But the crown, it had fallen, and she thought she would break. And she stood there, ashamed of the way her heart ached. And she took him to the doorstep, and she asked him to wait. She would only be a moment, inside. And out in the distance her order was heard, and the soldier was killed, still waiting for her word. And while the queen went on strangling in the solitude she preferred, the battle continued on.
What a What a track. You guys were not, that's why a lot of you had suggested this one from Miss Vega. Woo! This was, what a twist at the end. What a poignant message, a great theme. I love the soldier confronting the queen. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. But then the twist ending. She is affected. She clearly has a conscience. She's clearly affected by what he's saying. Okay. There's a lot to dive into this one, I think. Where do we begin? Musically, adjacent in a nice folk styling here. I love the piano especially. It's really wonderful. The guitar, all laying out this wonderful tapestry of a theme and a scene for which the scene is set and the characters play and communicate and interact and so on and so forth. And it's really just a lovely weaving of music. And then, of course, as the twist comes near the end, before it comes, the guitar changes into those strong and harshly struck chords, of which we understand why they sound so particularly violent at that particular moment. Vega sings so wonderfully here. There's a really fine line, I think, between narrating, telling a story, and singing, and I think that she does a perfect walk on that line of telling the story in a melodically pleasant and singy kind of way. Singy, that's not a good word. A sing-songy kind of way. You know what I mean. It's easy to follow, very clear voiced, and her style of singing just works so well in this particular track. I love the piano. I see that that's performed by C.P. Roth on this particular track, and the organ as well. That was just so nice. The bass from Paul Dugan carrying things rhythmically in the back. Suzanne's handling some guitar alongside of Steve Adabo, rather. This was a brilliant track, but let's dive into the story, because this is where some meat is to be found. The soldier came knocking upon the queen's door. He said, "I'm not fighting for you anymore." And the queen knew she'd seen his face someplace before, and slowly she let him inside. She's accepting of an audience, so that already shows she's at least somewhat attentive and caring to me as a queen, at least initially. He said, "I've watched your palace up here on the hill, and I've wondered who's the woman for whom we all kill. But I'm leaving tomorrow, and you can do what you will. Only first, I'm asking why." Okay, so obviously he's asking why are we fighting for you and such, right? He wants to know who he's fighting for. Something that I think is quite interesting, if you don't mind me saying, is the first line, he came knocking upon the queen's door. Later on he says, they've lost more battles than won. Is this pretty much near the, there's a dire situation here, because I feel like the soldier can't just come up knocking to the queen's door. You know what I mean? And I think later on she does mention solitude, right? So I think that they're on the losing end of the stick, and at the end she's just being a little stubborn. And down the long narrow hall he was led into her room with her tapestries red in a sense symbolically, of course, of the blood of the soldiers. And she never once took the crown from her head, reminding him, "Listen, I may be bringing you into my personal chambers, but remember who I am." And she asked him to sit down. He said, "I see you now, and you are so very young." Now he's really seeing her and looking at her. "But I've seen more battles lost than I've seen battles won. And I've got this intuition that says it's all for your fun. And now will you tell me why?" So he has his own preconceptions. He comes to her and he confronts her with that. But he says, "But I'm open to telling me why." Well, the young queen, she fixed him with an arrogant eye. She said, "You won't understand. You may as well not try." But her face was a child's, and he thought she would cry. But she closed herself up like a fan. I like these lines, how the soldier keeps saying that she's young and such. Like she's a young person put into this position of power, and she's not quite ready for it. She's like emotionally not at that point where she can be a harsh queen. He even notices like she looks like she's about to cry, but she closes herself. She holds that back, that emotion. She has to be regal. She said, I have swallowed a secret burning thread. It cuts me inside and often I've bled. And he laid his hand then on top of her head. Interesting. And he bowed her down to the ground. This whole verse was really interesting. This is where, to me, a lot is symbolically kind of happening. She said, I swallowed a secret burning thread. It cuts me inside and often I've bled. I feel like that's just her saying, like, I've swallowed something. There's something inside me that hurts. And I feel for you. She's trying to emotionally relate to him. I understand. I feel for you. There's something inside that's burning me up and tearing me apart as well. And it's interesting that the soldier, lays his hand on top of her head and he bows her down to the ground. As if like to lower herself, like to humble her. Maybe that was the reason that you get off in the end. If I was a soldier, I wouldn't be touching the queen like that. But almost like when I imagine him putting his hand on her head, almost like a blessing, or like a priest telling someone like, lower yourself, humble yourself, let me bless you, or pray, my child, kind of thing. He says, and tell me how hungry you are, or are you? How weak you must feel, as you are living here alone and you are never revealed. Like you can't be like, you say that you feel for us, but you're not hungry and fighting the same way we are on the battlefield. But I won't march again on your battlefield. And he took her to the window to see. Like, let me show you what we're dying for. And the sun, it was gold, though the sky, it was gray. And she wanted more than she ever could say. Or she wanted more than she ever could say. Like, she wanted to say something. But she knew how it frightened her, and she turned away and would not look at his face again. She's not only turned away from what he's tried to show her, from the atrocities, from the horror of war and the battle, but now she's turning away from him, cutting off that line of communication effectively. And he said, I want to live as an honest man, to get all I deserve and to give all I can, and to love a young woman who I don't understand. Your Highness, your ways are very strange. That I feel like he's just saying, like, and to love, like, to have a wife who I don't fully understand, but that's okay, because I just want a simple life. Here we go. But the crown had fallen, and she thought it would break. Just like her, she thought that she would break. And she stood there ashamed of the way her heart ached, just like that burning thread. And she took him to the doorstep and she asked him to wait. She would only be a moment inside. Okay, so I feel like there's a few things here. Like I just said, she feels that her crown, it's about to fall and it would break, or it did fall. She thought it would break, but she doesn't break. She holds steady to her steadfastness. And she feels ashamed, right? So she tells him to wait and she leaves. She feels ashamed and she leaves. She's running away from the problem. She's running away from the reality of war. She's running away from the reality of death and devastation that's happening. And she also doesn't want her weaknesses revealed. She's already showed him too much. And he can't live. He can't leave the room alive. And out in the distance, her order was heard. And the soldier was killed, still waiting for her word. Yeah, he received her word, all right. And while the queen went on strangling in the solitude she preferred, the battle continued on. And so the carnage went on. And I think it's interesting it says, and while the queen went on strangling in the solitude she preferred. Could be me. I'm taking this in two different ways. Either one, she felt so ashamed that she went and killed herself, or, like in a literal way, or it says she went on strangling in the solitude she preferred. She's morally strangling. She's still alive at the end, but she's morally strangling at the end when confronted with what the soldier said. I don't know, brother. This one's got some sauce to it a little bit. This is a fantastic recommendation. Really, really wonderful track here to listen to. Thank you guys for the suggestion. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one, of course, down there in the comments. I appreciate you all watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. Please come on back by again tomorrow, and I will see you all then. This is great.